Let's go through LeetCode 2718. Sum of matrix after queries give us n multiple by n matrix and also an integer two-dimensional array queries. So for the query, every query it has three elements. The first one is type, and the second one is the index, and the third one is value. So if type 0, it will get the row of this index, the whole row of this index to be this value. And if it's 1, then we set all of the column of the index to be this value. So return the sum of integer in the matrix after all queries are applied. Initially, we'll say this n multiple n are set as all of that are 0. So let's look at the time range. The query is 5 to the power 10 to the fourth, and n is 10 to the power fourth. So if we do brute force simulate the problem, it will be TLE. So how can we do better? We'll find for the query, right? So for this question, the query, if we do in the forward direction, for example, this is the query. For example, it is n0 and the index 0. We set, for example, as 2, right? And all of set row 0 to be 2. And if we have another type 0 and the index 0, and possibly set this 3, right? This type of operation, the value will overwrite those operations in the previous operations, right? So we'll see if we have the same operation, the later one will be cover the previous one. So this gives us some kind of hint that we can do in a reversed operation, right? So the things that if it is for the same operation, for example, type 0 and it's type the same index, right? It will be override by the later one. But how can we handle the vertical one, right? The vertical one is that the same thing is that if we have, for example, this is the first operation is this one, right? And for example, this is the second operation, and let's say if this horizontal is the third operation, then we'll find the vertical operation will be covered by the later row operation for these two cells, right? So that means row and the column operation, the later one will cover partially of the later operations. So the things that, for example, we already have an operation which is the last. For example, last one is to change this one to be row, right? And also we have the second to the last is to change this one to be a row, and the for example n-1, the n-2, n-3 operation is the row operations. And for example, so let's say the n-4 is a vertical operation. So we'll see this vertical operation, it will not overwrite the row operation. Instead, it will be overwrite by the row operation. So that means this vertical operation will update only this part, right? So what about we can do how many rows already been updated, for example, weighted, right? So our vertical operation, for example, this will be changed to 3, right? So it will not add to the total sum value to be 3 multiplied by 3 n, right? But will, for example, should be 3 multiplied by n minus 3 because this is already been covered by the 3 rows operations in the later later part. So what say we do reversely, and we can have int array, which is for row weighted and int array column weighted, right? So for the row weighted, if the later one already weighted, so in the previous operation, if we made the same one, we just continue it, right? We just ignore those kind of operations, and for the um for the for the every operation, right? For example, this is a column operation. We want to see how many it will add to the total sum. We'll see what it will be covered for the later operations, right? So it will be this value multiplied by n minus the covered, which is for the row in the later part, right? So the same thing with a row, right? So if there is a row, we'll see what is covered by the later vertical operations. So we can have a row counts and column counts. Um, so let's write code for this. So we know there need an Boolean for row weighted equals new Boolean and also column weighted equals new Boolean n, right? And we need an int row count equals 0 and the column count equals 0. So what we do is we need an let's have a q equals queries dot length and long results equals 0, right? Then what we do is for int I equals q minus 1, I greater equal to 0, I minus minus. So we'll say we'll get this query, right? Query equals queries. So we'll say we can have, for example, int index equals query 1 and value equals query 2, right? So I say if this type query 0 equals 0, right? And else that is if this is a horizontal operations. So what we do is that we'll see if we have later horizontal operations work on the same row or not. So I say if row weighted, then we just continue, right? Well, so this is invalid operations. Otherwise, we need a result should plus equal to 1 multiplied by value multiple by what? By n or not? No, we should have n multiplied by the row count, by the column count, right? And also, for this row operation, it is a valid row operation, so we'll have a row count should increase by 1. And also, we need to have this kind of row weighted index equals true, right? So we do similar to the type one. So we'll say if column weighted, right? Then continue. And we should have result should plus equal to 1L multiplied by value multiplied by n minus row counts. And we'll have column count should increase by 1. And column weighted ID equals true. So in the end, we just return result. Row weighted ID. Let's say this is ID, okay. Well, fine. If there are Q queries, this operation, for each operation that is a constant operation, so the time complexity will be OQ. And space, we have two arrays that will be ON space complexity. And we can also write Python code for this. So we are going to have row weighted, column weighted row count, column count equals false multiplied by n false multiplied by n 0, 0, right? We can also have result equals 0 and go to Q. Result equals 0 and Q equals length queries, right? For I in range, which is in a reverse order, Q minus 1, minus 1, minus 1, right? Then what we do is we're going to have type in the index and the value, right, equals queries R. Then if T equals 0, if it is a row operation, if row weighted ID, we just let's say ID X. We just continue. And otherwise, we just have result should plus equal to value multiplied by n minus column count. And we'll have a row weighted ID X equals true. And the row count should increase by 1, right? And else, we just have if visited column, this is column operation. So in the later part, if we have column um, operation with the same index, so it will be overwrite, right? So we are going to have result should plus equal to value multiplied by n minus column count, row count. And column weighted index equals 2. And we should have a row count should plus equal to 1. In the end, just return result. Column count, row count. not correct. I'm trying to see chorus -1 chorus I. So if row weighted index continue result n minus, so row weighted equals to row column. So this is a column constant.